The library was serene, with the soft rustle of pages and the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. Maria Santos, a Filipino librarian in her mid-40s, moved methodically along the shelves, carefully placing books back in their rightful spots. Her uniform, a yellow shirt adorned with a small insignia, hinted at her disciplined background, though few knew she was a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy Reserve. For Maria, the library was more than a workplace. It was a refuge, a place where knowledge flourished and everyone was welcome. Her calm day was suddenly disrupted by the echo of heavy boots against the tiled floor. The sharp voice of a police officer sliced through the silence. "Hey you, stop!" Maria turned, startled, to see Officer Karen, a tall blonde woman in her late 40s, striding toward her with a look of suspicion. "Is there a problem?" Maria asked politely, though the officer's tone immediately made her uneasy. "What are you doing here?" Karen demanded, her voice laced with authority. "This area is restricted. Let me see some ID." Maria blinked, confused. "Ma'am, I work here. I'm the head librarian." The officer scoffed. "You? A head librarian? Don't make me laugh. Show me your ID, monkey." The racial slur hung in the air, and a hush fell over the library. Patrons glanced up from their books, their expressions a mix of shock and disbelief. Maria felt a wave of anger and humiliation, but forced herself to remain calm. Slowly, she reached into her pocket for her ID. Maria handed her ID to the officer, who snatched it from her hands with unnecessary force. Karen's smirk widened as she read the card aloud. "Maria Santos, Lieutenant Commander, U.S. Navy Reserve." Her smug expression faltered as realization dawned. "Yes, ma'am," Maria replied, her voice steady. "I've served this country for 15 years, and I've been working in this library for the last 3. Now, is there anything else I can help you with?" Karen's face reddened, but she quickly tried to regain her composure. "Well, I've been told someone's trespassing in restricted areas, so I was just..." "Accusing me without evidence? Calling me a racial slur?" Maria interrupted, her tone sharpening. The officer glanced around, realizing that several patrons were now recording the incident on their phones. Murmurs filled the library as people whispered among themselves. "Did she just call her a monkey?" one patron said, incredulous. "This is unacceptable," another added, shaking their head. Maria stepped closer to the officer, her confidence growing. "You're a public servant, sworn to protect and serve. Is this how you fulfill your duty?" Before the officer could respond, the library manager arrived, alerted by the commotion. A tall woman with a calm but firm demeanor, the manager looked between Maria and Karen, her brow furrowing. "What's going on here?" she asked. "Ma'am," Maria began, turning to her superior, "this officer accused me of trespassing, demanded my ID, and called me a racial slur in front of everyone." The manager's eyes widened in disbelief. She turned to Karen. "Is this true?" Karen stammered, her bravado crumbling. "I didn't mean it like that. I was just..." "That's enough," the manager said, cutting her off. "Officer, your behavior is completely unacceptable. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Karen opened her mouth to protest, but the growing crowd of patrons made her think twice. Meanwhile, Maria calmly pulled out her phone and began recording. "I think your precinct will want to hear about this," Maria said, her tone calm but resolute. The officer's face turned pale as she realized the gravity of her actions. Without another word, she turned and left the library, her shoulders hunched in defeat. As the door closed behind her, a ripple of quiet applause spread through the room. Maria turned to face the small crowd that had gathered. Her heart was pounding, but she knew this was a moment to speak up. "No one should ever tolerate being treated this way," she said, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. "Racism has no place in our society, whether it's in the streets, in the workplace, or right here in this library. If you ever find yourself in a situation like this, don't stay silent. Speak up, record it, and demand accountability." The patrons nodded in agreement, some murmuring words of support. A young woman in the back wiped away tears, inspired by Maria's courage. In the days that followed, the video of the incident went viral. News outlets picked up the story, with headlines like "Racist Cop Confronts Filipino Librarian Gets Exposed" trending nationwide. Maria's bravery became a symbol of resistance against hate. On television, a news anchor reported Lieutenant Commander Maria Santos, a decorated Navy officer and head librarian, is being hailed as a hero for standing up against discrimination. The officer involved is now under investigation for misconduct. The video cut to footage of protests outside the police precinct, with people holding signs that read, "Justice for Maria" and "End Racism Now." Back at the library, Maria continued her work, her head held high. She knew the fight against racism was far from over, but she also knew that one voice could spark a movement.